After my tragic death, my utterly despised son risked his life to avenge me. My husband, who had lived a carefree life indulging in pleasures, succeeded in bringing down the rival corporation. He then committed suicide while clutching my urn. My spirit, floating in the air, spun in disbelief. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself scolding my son for only achieving second place in his grade, while simultaneously smashing my husband's collection of luxury watches. Me. Let's pause the malevolent act. I need to switch roles. The floor was littered with broken watch faces and torn exam papers. With the trembling butler and servants standing by, I silently placed the last watch back in its place, changing my grip on my son from a pinch to a gentle stroke. Jiang Qizhao took a step back, avoiding my hand. His delicate yet youthful face showed a hint of coldness. He stooped to pick up pieces of the torn exam paper. Clutching them in his hand before silently turning to leave, I stared at his retreating figure for a few seconds, then raised my voice. Jiang Qizhao. He paused on the steps, but did not turn around. There's a parent-teacher meeting tomorrow, right? I happen to be free, I'll attend. I said, no need. Jiang Qizhao refused without hesitation and continued upstairs. The words stuck in my throat, and I sighed internally, scanning the chaotic scene before ordering someone to clean it up. Then I made a phone call. After a long wait, the call was answered leisurely, with a noisy background. What is it? The man's voice was casual, with a playful lilt, humming a tune, epitomizing a carefree playboy. Yet, it was he who, after my death, abandoned all his amusements and insanely drove my stepmother's family corporation to bankruptcy and ruin. My thoughts drifted back to the scene I witnessed as a mere spirit. My typically flirtatious and lazy husband, Jiang Ji, had red-rimmed eyes and bloodless lips. Devoid of his usual frivolity, he decisively made everyone who had wronged me pay a painful price. I could understand these actions. After all, no matter how strained our relationships were, I was still the lady of the Jiang family, representing their honor. But there was really no need for Jiang Ji to die for me. After avenging me, he stood by the seaside where we had our wedding, holding my urn. He stood there for hours as the wind erased his usual dignified demeanor, leaving him desolate. At that moment, my spirit floated nearby, scoffing, thinking, now he finally shows some conscience after his days of drinking and flirting. Then, under my astonished gaze, he walked step by step into the deep sea with my urn in his arms, without looking back, lonely and resolute, until the waves surged and swallowed him, leaving no trace behind. Only my trembling spirit remained. This foolishly sentimental president, polluting the waters, would surely look horrendous when his body surfaced. By the quiet seaside at night, my lonely spirit seemed trapped in place, feeling as if a salty, damp breeze had swept over, disheveling my hair and unsettling my heart. Upon opening my eyes again, I was back to the time when I reigned supreme in the Jiang household. I clutched my phone, pressing it to my ear, listening to Jiang Ji's indifferent voice. Do you want money, or what? I pursed my lips. I smashed your watches. Jiang Ji just acknowledged with an "oh," seemingly unconcerned. Okay, then I'll hang up. Before he could hang up, I quickly blurted out, where are you? On the other end, there was a pause, and after a moment, all the background noise and music ceased, leaving a silence so deep that one could hear a pin drop. Why, are you thinking of getting a divorce? Zhang's initially lazy tone suddenly turned chilly. If you get divorced, where will you go? Back to the Ji family. Do you think they'll treat you well? Did you have another fight with A Zhao? Don't forget, you still have my investment in your studio. Darling, shut up now, and I can pretend I didn't hear anything. I was quite shocked as Jiang rattled off this string of remarks. I really didn't know how he could jump from my asking his location to talking about divorce, but I knew he was always like this. Beneath his privileged exterior was a condescending indifference. He could speak touching love words emotionlessly with his affectionate peach blossom eyes, and just as easily discard past lovers, playing through the human world, passing unscathed even amidst a cluster of flowers. And I've never been one to have a good temper, as others in our circle would put it. I'm a domineering tigress, wreaking havoc. Especially after I fell ill, I became even more of a torment. Otherwise, I wouldn't have caused such unrest in the Jiang family in my previous life. My good temper just now was due to being moved by their actions after my death, which made me want to start over and treat them more gently this time around, but it seemed that no one appreciated that. Fine, let's divorce now. Take your son and get out, I said with a cold laugh, intentionally being contradictory. As soon as the words left my mouth, I locked eyes with Jiang Qizhao, who was coming downstairs with books in hand. His dark eyes betrayed no emotion. He looks half like his father and half like me, but his personality resembles neither of us. I wanted to see their reaction to the mention of divorce. 3. Do you want to divorce? Jiang Qizhao stood not far from me, his tone calm. He seemed mature for his age, but children who grow up without parental love do tend to mature earlier. I watched for any change in Jiang Qizhao's expression, subtly raising an eyebrow. Your father doesn't love me. And your affection for me is even less than that for your tutor. What reason do I have to stay with the Jiang family? No, his expression didn't change much, but his words hesitated for a moment. After a long pause, Jiang Qixiao spoke softly. My dad won't agree, that's not up to him, I replied. The living room fell silent for a while. Is this because I won't let you attend the parent-teacher conference? So you want a divorce? Jiang Qixiao suddenly said. I was stunned, like father. Like son, both have such peculiar ways of thinking. Jiang Qixiao looked down, as if making up his mind. You can attend if you want, me. I suddenly understood why Jiang Qixiao reacted this way. He probably thought I would embarrass him at the parent-teacher conference and didn't really want me to attend. But, he wanted even less for me to divorce Jiang Ji. My heart sank. Mom just wants to know how you're doing in school lately. After a long silence, I softened my voice. Taking a step towards Jiang Qixiao, his lips parted, as if he wanted to say something, but just then, the villa's main door opened. Jiang Qixiao and I turned to look as Jiang Ji's tall figure stood framed against the backlight. As Jiang Ji walked in from the doorway, the kiss marks on his neck became increasingly visible. The atmosphere in the villa dropped further. Jiang Qixiao stared at Jiang Ji's neck for several seconds before walking past him without even a word of greeting. Heading straight outside, I instructed the butler to have someone follow him closely. The butler smiled and said, it's actually time for the young master's tutoring session, and the driver is already waiting at the door. I paused for a moment, nodded, and retracted my worries. When Jiang Ji's gaze met mine, he lightly lifted his index finger, and everyone else in the villa left, disappearing from view. Where did you get the courage to think about divorce? Jiang Ji loosened his collar. His casual demeanor seeming like an offhand question, I couldn't help but fix my gaze firmly on him. It was inquisitive, questioning, and also, strange. Despite being such a cynical person, why would he? After my death, Jiang Ji lazily leaned back on the sofa, arms crossed as he surveyed me. His tone still frivolous. Darling, remember, the banquet is tomorrow night. The banquet tomorrow night would be attended by all the prominent families of Haicheng, including my own family. My family found it odd. They hoped I could firmly tie Jiang Ji to our family yet didn't wish for my happiness. You have enough darlings outside, no need to waste your breath calling me darling. I smiled, not taking his bait, and sat down beside him. My words were a casual probe. When my soul aimlessly wandered after my death, I saw many scenes I had never witnessed before. For instance, the numerous lovers around Jiang Ji seemed to hint at some hidden truths. But the real truth still needed to be uncovered by me. Jiang Ji's expression flickered unnaturally for a moment. He glanced at me, and the smile at the corner of his mouth slightly faded. Are you jealous? He sounded self-mocking, almost sarcastic, his fingertips lightly tapping on his thigh. I casually placed my hand on his thigh too. The man beside me immediately stiffened. Jiang Ji, husband. I provocatively curled my lips, even though the home flower isn't as fragrant as the wild ones, but Jiang Ji almost scrambled to his feet. He took a deep breath and looked down at me. Ji, have you lost your mind? Jiang Ji's ears turned red. But how could someone so seasoned in the ways of love be so easily embarrassed? I smirked, continuously speaking without pause. The kids are already so big. What's wrong with touching you a bit? Are you too precious to be touched? We're not even divorced yet. Is it illegal for a wife to touch her husband? The air was thick with tension. In my previous life, I always spoke in this tone at the Jiang family. Only this time, there was a hint of teasing involved. Chastity is the best dowry a man can have. In my last life, I always felt disgusted by Jiang Ji's infidelities, naturally showing him no kindness, and even less desire to be close to him. But now, it seems the previous intelligence was slightly off. Thus, my attitude could afford some adjustment. Jiang Ji repeated, you've gone mad. Now not only were his ears red, but his neck also had a slight pink tinge. Just when I thought Jiang Ji would storm off in embarrassment, the butler hurried over, holding a phone. Mr. Jiang, madam, there's been an incident with the young master. I furrowed my brow, exchanged a glance with Jiang Ji, and then we both decided to head to the school together. Once in the car, Jiang Ji spoke on the phone with his secretary, found out the reason. I looked out the window at the swiftly passing scenery while listening to Jiang Ji's indifferent and off-key words. Hitting someone. Just because I've donated a few buildings to the school they start showing off. TSK, making such a fuss. I grimaced as the corner of my mouth twitched sharply. The comment was practically pointing directly at me, yet, Jiang Qixiao was eerily mature and calm, lacking the innocent demeanor typical of other 8-year-olds. I wanted to retort but held back. I was puzzled about what could have provoked Jiang Qixiao to hit someone. The mother of the child who was hit viciously grabbed Jiang Qixiao's ear and swung him towards me. Didn't your parents teach you anything? You're so young and already fighting. After she spoke, she seemed unsatisfied and slapped Jiang Qixiao across the face, the sound crisp and clear. I had just stepped into the principal's office when I witnessed this scene and heard her words. The next second, our eyes met, then In another second, I strode forward and swiftly slapped her twice. She was so shocked that she forgot to retaliate. If it's Jiang Qixiao's fault, we'll find a way to apologize and resolve the issue, but regardless, as an adult, you shouldn't be hitting a child directly. I spoke without hesitation, ignoring the astonished looks from the principal and teachers in the office. Moreover, from what I had just overheard in Jiang Qixiao's phone conversation, it was the other child who had insulted him first. Jiang Qixiao stood in front of the woman as she tried to retaliate, coldly calling out, "Jiang Qixiao." Jiang Qixiao's lips were tightly sealed, and after a long while, he said, "He told me my parents never attend parent-teacher meetings because my dad has a new wife and my mom is crazy. He also said that those who are good at math don't live long, and I might die in middle school, then my whole family would die. My dad would be stabbed to death by his mistress, and my mom would die from eating rat poison." Me, Jiang Qixiao. I met the gaze of the child hiding in the corner, expressionless. I clenched my fist and took a step forward, but other teachers quickly held me back. Calm down, calm down." Perhaps my expression was too frightening, causing the child to burst into tears, and his mother exclaimed in fear, "Didn't you say you shouldn't take your anger out on a child? Damn your foul mouth. You're the one without parents." I glared fiercely at the child, my anger reaching its peak. The child's crying grew louder. In the ensuing chaos, I saw Jiang Qixiao making a serious phone call, seemingly busy with something else even at this time. Just as I was about to scold him too, he slightly curled his lip, first glancing at Jiang Qixiao then at me, saying, "I've contacted someone to demolish the newly constructed buildings." Me, Jiang Qixiao. The conversation was still nonsensical. It was hopeless, the principal, trying to lighten the mood yet clearly not believing it, since it was impossible for newly constructed buildings to be demolished. "Mr. Jiang, please don't be angry. I think both parties are at fault here. After all, Qixiao started the fight. The preparation for the new cafeteria is halted," Jiang said calmly, dropping the last sentence. The principal, who was just playing dumb, suddenly widened his eyes, jumped up from his chair, and rushed to the child. "This is corrupting the school's atmosphere. Expelled, expelled." The child's mother stood agape, incredulous. "My child is so young, and you're stooping to his level. Besides, my child didn't hit anyone. He just said a few words." The principal's office was noisy and chaotic. Amid the noise, Jiang Qixiao seemed detached, his hands casually in his pockets, his back straight, his smile faint. I couldn't understand him. My gaze moved from him down to Jiang Qixiao. He just quietly watched me, his thick eyelashes fluttering, his pupils dark but no longer empty. After a while, I lifted my lips slightly, smiling at him. Jiang Qixiao didn't smile, he just kept looking at me, his delicate little face marked with a red handprint. "Zhao," I called softly. He froze. This was his nickname, the one I used when he was very young. Back then, I wasn't yet malicious or sinful. "Zhao." I called out again, the overlapping sounds of a child's crying, his mother's curses and breakdown, the teacher's attempts to mediate, and the principal's anger filled the small office, almost to the point of explosion. Yet, for some reason, I clearly heard Jiang Qixiao's faint response. After returning home, I sat in front of the dressing table, staring at a row of psychiatric medications for a long time. Then, I pushed all of them into the trash can, hearing a slight noise. I turned my head. Jiang Qixiao stood at the door. He was still too young to be smoking, not very tall, holding a glass of milk, quietly watching me. He didn't speak. And as usual, Jiang Ji wasn't coming home tonight. The silence in the villa was eerie. I sighed and opened my arms to Jiang Qixiao. "Do you want a hug from Mom?" He looked at me for a long while, then finally walked over, placed the milk on the table, and without a word, turned and left. Just then, my phone screen lit up. Looking down, it was a video of Jiang Ji in a bar, surrounded by bright lights and festivities. In the video, his laughter was captivating, the center of attention. My informant sent me a message. "Are you interested in him? Although he's rich, his family keeps tight reins on him. You might not get a chance with him. There are plenty of handsome guys here. We even have male models. Why don't you come over? I can introduce you to some good ones." I replied, "I heard he's quite the playboy, and I'm pretty good looking myself. Why couldn't something happen?" The informant replied, "Just on the surface." Those few words were brief but loaded with information. After that statement from the bar manager, no matter how much I pressed, he refused to disclose more. As per our agreement, I transferred the final payment and wrote, "I'll be there soon. Find some good-looking male models. Big sister, try this." A brother playfully fed me a grape, surrounded by other male models who were also whispering sweet nothings. I bit into the grape, its sweetness bursting in my mouth, counting down in my mind. 3, 2, 1. I looked up, locking eyes with Jiang Ji, who walked out from a second-floor VIP box, his peach blossom eyes slightly cool. He was followed by a laughing group. Upon seeing me, their expressions changed instantly. and the noise around them quieted, one of the male models next to me leaned close, whispering sweet nothings in my ear. I kept my gaze on Jiang Ji, even waving at him with a smile. Jiang Ji strode over with long steps, stopping in front of me. Ji, his smile was faint, his voice even fainter. Hi, hubby, I casually said. At that, the male models around me immediately showed shocked expressions, stumbling over their words. Mr. Jiang, Mrs. Jiang. Jiang Ji was a major shareholder of the bar and a frequent visitor, almost universally recognized there. I stood up, straightening his collar. Husband, what a coincidence to run into you here. What are you doing following me here? Seeing my nonchalant attitude, Jiang's slender fingers gripped my wrist tightly. I chuckled lightly. Isn't it obvious? Just teasing you. Are you really considering a divorce? Jiang looked down at me, his eyes questioning. What, huh? How did we end up on the topic of divorce again? What is he thinking? But I decided to go along with it. You don't love me, and neither does our son. I might as well set you both free sooner rather than later. As I spoke, I held Jiang tightly, watching his expression closely. He paused for a moment. Do you need me to love you? His tone was very calm like a stagnant pond. Gone was his usual cynicism and frivolity. I suddenly realized that in fact, Jiang was still like his old self. Showing another side of him, the Jiang before me now, gave me the feeling of the time he stood by the seaside holding my urn in his previous life, a calmness that bordered on utter despair. Looking into his amber eyes, I said earnestly, pausing at each word, I do. After that, without waiting for his response, I yanked his hand and pulled him outside. The bar manager watched us, dumbfounded. As we walked, I called back to the manager, charge all my expenses to Mr. Jiang's account. Jiang let me lead him without resisting. I dragged him to my car and pushed him in. Sitting on his lap, I fiercely grabbed his chin. I hate dishonest men. Tell me, have you touched anyone else? Jiang looked stunned. Silence filled the car for a long time. The air thick with the lingering smell of smoke and alcohol from us. It wasn't pleasant. I lowered my eyelids, let go of him, and rolled down the car window. No, he said. Then why do you frequent bars and let rumors spread? I seized the opportunity to press him. It's none of your business. He slightly lifted his chin, his gaze on me, but his emotions were indiscernible. I grabbed his neck with both hands and bit his lower lip hard. I am your spouse? Do you know what that means? Jiang's lips were tight, and he remained silent. I laughed out of frustration. You don't know, do you? Then let's get a divorce. After tomorrow, I will have someone draft the divorce papers. Surprisingly, he agreed to the divorce. After he spoke, I froze. Although my mind was a mess, my pride made me respond, fine. I got off his lap, but his slender fingers instinctively gripped the root of my thigh. I didn't move. He let go and said, I'll call the driver. When I returned home, the medicine I had thrown into the trash from my makeup table was replaced with new ones, neatly arranged on the table. Jiang stood at the doorway, his silhouette shadowed, holding a book. He paused, then said, the doctor said you can't skip your medication. I was momentarily dazed. In my past life, my bipolar disorder was severe. I couldn't skip medication for even a day, but after being reborn, I didn't feel the constant pain and madness of my previous life. I lowered my eyelids, my gaze drifting over the medication I had taken countless times before. Zhao, I'm sorry. My voice was hoarse. Jiang's figure noticeably stiffened. He seemed a bit lost and helpless. I have always failed in my duties as a mother. When I became a spirit, I watched my son Jiang Qizhao desperately trying to win over my stepsister by pretending to be obedient and sweet-talking her. He almost fell victim to my power-hungry sister, who nearly got rid of this child left behind by his sister and Jiang Ji. At that time, I cried and begged Jiang Qizhao to forget about me and not seek revenge for such an incompetent mother like me, but he couldn't hear me. Now, I can finally tell him in person. I'm sorry, Jiang Qizhao. Jiang Ji's voice came from not far away, casual yet oppressive. Jiang Qizhao did not move. Have you finished your homework? Jiang Ji approached, eyes lowered. Mind your own business. I stood up, took Jiang Qizhao's hand, and pulled him behind me. Jiang Ji was taken aback by my retort, but he quickly returned to his usual indifferent self. He told me, the Ji family will be attending tomorrow's banquet. I instinctively withdrew my hand, but Jiang Qizhao held it firmly. In my past life, it was the Ji family that caused my death, despite sharing the same surname and bloodline. Seeing my expression, he paused for a moment, then asked, are you going? I grimly smiled, yes, to see those people, those who couldn't stand to see me succeed. My thoughts drifted back to a long time ago, to my previous life. Jiang Ji and I were forced to marry without any love between us, and every day was filled with hatred. In the midst of that hatred, some feelings developed. Jiang Qizhao was conceived under those circumstances. My family feared that if I had a son, my status in the Jiang family would rise significantly. My brother and sister would often whisper in my ear about Jiang Ji's frivolity and infidelity. I didn't believe them, but later, The G family secretly drugged me with psychotropic substances, turning me from a normal person into someone with a mental illness, irritable and prone to anger, yet also fearful and depressed. It was only after I died and followed Jiangji as a spirit that I saw him avenge me and watched him change into someone unrecognizable. The next day, the banquet arrived as scheduled. I wore an ivory mermaid dress, arm in arm with Jiangji, under the watchful eyes of the other guests in the hall. "Sister." A cheerful voice called out as Ji Rulin approached me in her little heels. When we were face to face, she smiled at Jiangji, brother-in-law. I smiled back and asked her, "How are mom and brother?" "Mom wasn't feeling well, so she didn't come. She's at home taking care of dad," Ji Rulin answered. Avoiding mentioning Ji Hao, because I knew that Ji Hao was currently scheming to embarrass me at this banquet, aiming to ruin my reputation, at the critical moment. Ji Rulin would step forward to attract Jiangji's attention. Even though everyone knew that Jiangji and I had a rocky marriage, they were also aware that my mental state had been significantly manipulated by their design, yet, they still wouldn't let me be. They coveted the position of Mrs. Jiang. Aiming to elevate Ji Rulin, I unconsciously tightened my grip on Jiangji's arm. Jiangji glanced down at me and after a long moment, he looked away and nodded slightly at Ji Rulin. Ji Rulin's smile grew even brighter. She eagerly said to me, "Even though mom didn't come, she prepared a beautiful dress for you. You always say mom doesn't love you, but she really cares about you. Let me take you to the dressing room to try it on." I looked at Ji Rulin and sneered inwardly. "Do you think there's something wrong with my taste?" Jiang Ji said, lowering his gaze. The tone wasn't forceful, yet it made one's skin crawl. Ji Rulin's expression froze. "What?" I smiled and said. "This mermaid dress I'm wearing, he helped me choose it." Ji Rulin's eyes widened. "Aren't you too?" She realized her comment was inappropriate and quickly shifted her words. "But that was prepared by your mother." Right, I cheerfully agreed, pulling my arm out of Jiangji's embrace, only to have him grasp it again. His dark eyes locked onto me without blinking. I met his gaze. After a moment, I chuckled lightly. "Honey, wait till I change into a new gown for you to see." The air went silent for 2 seconds before he released my hand. I followed Ji Rulin upstairs where she opened a lounge room and walked in, first handing me a glass of water, then opening a wardrobe, a white long dress. I stood there, my eyes fixated on the white dress. It was identical. Identical to the one my mother wore when she committed suicide. My stepmother moved in 3 years after my mother's death. When I was only 7, I don't remember much from my childhood. But the most vivid memory was waking up from a nap to find my mother lying silently beside me. She wore a pristine white dress and half a bottle of sleeping pills lay empty on the bedside table. She left no suicide note, and her behavior had been normal before her death. But every night after finishing a bedtime story, she would always add one line, "Zizi, mommy will always love you." So there was this layer too, in my previous life. The Ji family also plotted against me at this banquet by sending just an ordinary dress. It must be that things have been too calm at the Zhongs these days, and my stepmother couldn't keep her composure and wanted to stir up some disgust in me. Ji Rulin's words interrupted my whirlwind of thoughts. Her eyes smiling. "Do you like it? This dress is quite expensive." This was the dress my father had given to my mother on the day he proposed to her. I reached out and clenched the white dress. "Why don't you try it on here, and I'll wait outside," she said, her steps light as she went out, thoughtfully closing the door behind her. I carefully felt the soft fabric of the dress in my hands. 10 seconds later, I closed the wardrobe and pushed open the decorative door designed to be hidden. This was something I had instructed to be made right after I came back to life. Aligning with the timeline, the space behind the secret door was brightly lit, and as I stepped in, I could hear Ji Rulin humming happily through another door. I too smiled. Not until I had completely passed through the secret door and entered the hidden space did I see an unexpected person, Jiang Ji. He was dressed in a tailored silver gray suit, lazily leaning on the sofa, his fingertips tapping sporadically on his thigh. He lifted his eyelids, saw me, and showed no surprise. Jiang Ji, I really didn't expect to see him here. How did he know I had a secret door built here, in my previous life? I fell into their trap and was later saved by Jiang Ji, but this life, I had already thought ahead and wouldn't fall into the same trap again, so how could he still know? However, Jiang Ji clearly didn't intend to explain. I pursed my lips, "Not calling me a husband anymore," Jiang Ji teased. I choked a bit, then sat down on my own. A few minutes later, noises came from the room I was originally in. A gentle male voice faintly asked, "Xiao Ji, are you all right?" Hearing this insincere voice made me feel sick. I took a deep breath. But then Jiang Ji grabbed my wrist and pulled me into his arms. I stiffened. "What are you do?" Before I could finish, his cool, dry palm covered my mouth. Lies. A warm breath grazed the back of my ear, sending a shiver down my spine. Next door. Ji Hao's voice changed from initial concern and confusion to cursing loudly. I forced myself to ignore Jiang Ji's actions and took out my phone to send a message to Ji Rulin from my other account. They can go in now. Ji Rulin immediately replied, okay, you'll get your money after this is done. The previous messages were from her, saying she was afraid of being exposed standing by the door for too long and had left, asking me to monitor the room in her place. What she didn't know was that the owner of this trusted account was the very person she was desperately trying to harm. She also didn't realize that her beloved brother had already taken my place, locked up in the room. After sending the message, I turned around. Jiang Ji was standing close to me, calmly observing me. There was no surprise or confusion in his expression. After a minute of silence, the sounds of doors opening and closing came from next door, followed by Ji Hao's cursing and screaming. And the panting of other men. The hunter becomes the hunted. Ji Hao had brought 3 men, hoping to ruin me, but now it was his turn to taste his own medicine. Feeling slightly better, I pinched Jiang Ji's earlobe and whispered, honey, the show has started. Jiang Ji steadied me by the waist, remembering that after today, we were supposed to sign the divorce papers tomorrow. I chuckled, after tomorrow, you might not see such an exciting show again, and you won't be my husband anymore. The hand around my waist tightened for a moment, causing me to groan in discomfort. He seemed to realize this and loosened his grip. The noise next door was harsh and unpleasant. I straightened my skirt, preparing to leave this hidden space. Jiang Ji followed behind me. I naturally stopped and took his hand. Jiang Ji let me lead him. Somehow, I had a premonition that this marriage might not end, but there wasn't time to ponder this now. Because after Jiang Ji and I left the hidden space and took a detour back to that sinful room, we found a crowd had already gathered outside, including reporters with cameras. Ji Rulin's eyes were red as she accused, sister, there's more than one man in this room, isn't there? How could you do this to your husband? The crowd murmured in surprise. The so-called stepmother, who was supposed to be taking care of our father at home, stood aside in her elegant attire. Touching the bracelet on her wrist, this shameful slut, Ji, just like her mother. As soon as she finished speaking, I stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face, twice. Without holding back, everyone stared at me in disbelief, especially Ji Rulin, who widened her eyes in shock. Seeing Jiang Ji standing on the other side, her face gradually turned pale. Just then, the staff member Ji Rulin had called with the keys arrived, and the door to the room was opened. A foul stench filled the air as 4 entangled men were revealed. The stepmother, seeing the face of the man at the bottom, tortured beyond recognition, threw herself towards him without regard for her image, screaming, How? How? I patted Ji Rulin's shoulder mockingly. Didn't you recognize your brother's voice? Ji Rulin's cheeks flushed with anger as she raised her hand to slap me, but Jiang Ji intercepted it midair. Ji Rulin trembled, tears swirling in her eyes. You ruined my brother. Don't rush to defend him, I said with a slight smile. I've already reported your academic plagiarism and falsified lab results, and the arrival of the police interrupted Ji Rulin's panicked curses. As Ji Rulin was handcuffed, she struggled and screamed. You and Ji Hao misappropriated company funds for personal use, cooked the books, and made the accountant take the fall. Did you really think you were flawless? The stepmother shook her head in disbelief. I shrugged. Your good days are over too, both your children are locked away. Did you really expect my half-vegetative father to take care of you? Moreover, Jiang has been targeting the Ji family for a while now. They're desperate and out of options, otherwise they wouldn't have come up with such a cruel and dramatic plan. I sighed softly. Prepare to face hell for the rest of your lives. The Ji family is on the brink of bankruptcy, burdened with so much debt and enemies. The stepmother collapsed to the ground. No, it can't be. I glanced at her expressionlessly and turned to leave. I knew Jiang was following me. When we were alone, I turned around. I'm waiting for your divorce papers. Jiang smiled casually. He stepped closer, lowered his head, and his cool lips touched mine. I didn't resist, until my head spun a bit and I felt dizzy. Wait, you? As my consciousness slowly returned, I struggled to open my eyes, letting the dim light flood into them. I felt utterly drained. When I fully came to, I saw that my hands and feet were shackled by chains. I moved slightly, and the crisp sound of metal clashing was particularly loud and harsh in the room. The door opened, and Jiang stood there, holding a bowl of porridge, looking down at me from above. I smiled, not questioning my predicament, but hinted, where's the divorce agreement? Don't think about leaving me. Jiang didn't answer directly, his lips curving slightly. My smile faded. And our eyes met. I had a sixth sense that he had regained his memories from me. Don't think this will make me let my guard down. Oh, what about our son? I will make sure he is well cared for. Perhaps this was the real Jiang. Underneath his lazy demeanor was a calm yet fanatic obsession. How had I not realized this in my previous life? I glanced at the porridge and then at him. Well, you might as well feed me. I'm starving. Jiang ignored me. His cool fingertips touched my cheek, then slowly traced down to my collarbone. Gigi, he sighed softly.
Yeah.
I responded and locked eyes with him, his gaze as deep as the ocean yet as distant as the stars. You'll never get rid of me. His voice was husky. I can't get rid of you. I scoffed lightly. It's you who can't leave me, right? Jiang paused, his fingertips still. I leaned forward, arms wrapping around his neck, moving closer. Some people die and their spouses follow them in death. Our eyes met. Just for a second, he looked away. He knew I had been reborn, and I knew he had too, but Jiang hadn't expected me to lift this veil of haze. Having been reborn, shouldn't you have let go and set me free? I narrowed my eyes. Puzzled, shaking the chains on my wrists. After you died, I always regretted it, he said, eyes downcast, his fingertip pressing on the chain on my wrist. I should have confined you from the start. Was the agreement to divorce the day before yesterday just part of your plan to lock me away? I asked. Jiang didn't answer directly, his gaze lowered. Letting me hold on to his neck, his tone was calm, devoid of his usual frivolity. He said, my birthday wish is to create a golden cage worthy of you, to keep you inside. It was an abrupt statement, but I understood it all too well. The first year after the birth of Jiang Qizhou, the year my relationship with Jiang completely deteriorated, the Jiang family was in constant turmoil because of me. Yet, on Jiang's birthday, I maintained basic decency. I gave him a piece of jade. Indeed expensive, but shaped more like a tombstone. If I were to use the servant's interpretation, it would be, Madame Jiang used this jade tombstone to commemorate her dead love with President Jiang. I can't remember exactly what I was thinking at the time, but I do remember casually asking Jiang, did you make a wish? Hopefully, it wasn't for me to disappear. It was quite a provocative statement. Jiang half closed his peach blossom eyes, and upon reopening them, he just looked deeply at me. Saying nothing, feeling foolish, I left Jiang with the birthday cake that had only had its candles blown out and went upstairs alone. So that was his wish back then. I poked Jiang's cheek and chuckled. Congratulations, you got your wish. Perhaps, Jiang and I could never truly escape each other, after all. In my previous life after I died, my ashes still ended up in Jiang's embrace. But this time, it wasn't my ashes in his embrace, but the very real me. Side story 1. I've always felt that although Jiang always talks about keeping me locked up, it was always him who was trapped. Maybe there's something wrong with me, but I find it quite exhilarating. Then the divorce just fizzled out, and I regained my freedom. I was lounging on the bed with my legs crossed, happily binge-watching TV dramas. Jiang pushed the door open, his gaze landing on me. He walked in and covered me with a blanket. Shocked, I threw the blanket off. Not seducing me. What's with this attitude? Jiang curved his lips, his gaze sweeping over my body from top to bottom. Clothed or not, I still want. I covered his mouth, flipped over and pushed him down on the bed. Jiang, wait. 2. Jiang and I had hardly ever fulfilled our responsibilities as parents, but one day we suddenly felt a pang of conscience. Jiang and I each held one of Jiang Qizhou's homework assignments. All three of us were somewhat silent. After a long inspection, we couldn't find a single error. Jiang Qizhou's handwriting was beautiful, and his problem-solving was clear. I touched my chin and honestly said, I was already failing math in 3rd grade. Jiang grandly handed Jiang Qizhou a black gold card. Buy whatever you want. Jiang Qizhou, me, he's only 8. What can he buy? Just as I was about to criticize Jiang Qizhou took the card, walked over to me, and handed it to me. I looked at Jiang Qizhou. Jiang raised his eyebrows. Jiang Qizhou pursed his lips. Mom, buy a bag. I was stunned. That kid. Jiang chuckled. I looked at the family portrait on the table, Jiang Qizhou's neat homework on the left, the new watch I gave to Jiang on the right, and felt somewhat dazed. In my previous life, I thought happiness was hard to come by. This life, I've discovered, happiness is actually quite simple.